NFL picture now starting to get a little clearer, but we have some big games coming up that will determine the rest of the picture. We get into it next on Beyond the Locker Room. Huge games this past weekend in the NFL as we get to the end of the season, and I'm going to get into 3 games that all have huge playoff ramifications, and we'll get into all 3 of them in a moment. I'll start with my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Wow, you talk about an opportunity lost. You're playing the 3-12 Cleveland Browns, true on the road, but 3-12 with a rookie quarterback, and you can't find a way to scrounge up 1 touchdown. At some point, I don't know when some folks are going to have, there's some in the media have had honest conversations about Aaron Rodgers, such as Colin Cowherd. So much respect to him, as well as Nick Wright. They've had respect, had legitimate conversations about Aaron Rodgers, the performer and the player. And at this point, it's so clear that this man is such a front runner. They lose 13-6 to the Cleveland Browns. 10 points put up by Cleveland in the first quarter and 3 for the remainder of the game. I don't know how you have opportunity after opportunity to put points to the board and you can't figure out a way to get the ball in the end zone. And now I know I'm going to hear the excuses. They don't have Metcalf. They didn't have Austin. They didn't have, in this case, Washington, and so on and so forth. You still had guys to catch a ball, man. I'm sorry, man. At some point, man, you had enough times within 25 to 30 yards, almost red zone territory, and you couldn't come up with anything. Some of the play calling was questionable. When you're struggling offensively, I don't know in this case here, a go route on 4th and 1 is necessarily the case since you have not been doing anything right all day. That's a story for another day. I don't know. Arthur Smith, I don't know. I don't know what to say about what I'm seeing out there. As far as Aaron Rodgers goes and that offense, Valdez-Scantling 3 times at the 10-yard line with the season essentially on the line. That's where we're going to. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And 2 of the 3 times, he didn't even get the route right. Someone screwed up somewhere. To be fair, I doubt it's Aaron Rodgers on those 2 plays. He zigged when he should have zagged. At some point, you're sitting there going okay, would not the best option been for your steady tight end, Freiermuth, who caught 2 passes for the drive to get in the position? You might like to look for him once. I think they looked for him once and they never looked for him again. I would be looking for him for all 4 times. It was ridiculous. And because you have a quarterback that's as old as Methuselah, he cannot run. Therefore, it takes that out of play. Now you'll say, okay, well, the timeout stuff that. The running doesn't necessarily mean you try to run the end zone, even though that was possible, I think, in one of the circumstances. However, if you have a quarterback at least is mobile, he can extend plays, which then gives you an opportunity to make plays that you didn't expect to play out of the playbook. But because he can't move, you are structured, in this case, to the play calling only. And that means, in this case, once the team figures out the play calling, you have nowhere to go. Next point when it comes to Mr. Rodgers. Next point. He seemed more concerned about making sure that Myles Garrett didn't win the sack record than he was actually trying to get the dub. I don't know how many times I saw in that game where I saw him just throw the ball away or just toss it almost laterally to the receivers, which was quite dangerous, just so he could avoid a sack. And then after the game, he's chuckling at Brown's assistant coach. I don't know about what, but he seemed quite pleased. That, hey, I got out of this and I made sure you didn't get the sack record on me. Well, it's fantastic, Aaron Rodgers. I'm glad it's about you instead of trying to get a W for your team. At some point, I hope this nightmare is over soon. Now, Baltimore might put me out of our misery in this case next week. And I am a Steelers fan, so I hope the Steelers win at home. Knowing the Steelers in this case, they make life hard and find a way to scrounge around to get it done and then probably get blown out the next week. However, if they do lose next week, I hope I never see Aaron Rodgers in a Pittsburgh Steelers uniform again. This experiment is over with. Quite honestly, he's over with. I don't usually tell guys in this case they should retire and when they should retire, but I'm watching him and he is aging rough. I'm sorry. At some point you gotta look at it and say, you know what? Maybe it's time to call it a day. Might be time to call it a day. And the irony is the team that we're playing on the other side, we didn't want to pick, Shedeur Sanders up in the first round, the second round, the third round, the fourth round, and we didn't want to touch him. And lo and behold, who's now killing us and might actually take us out of the playoffs? The same Shedeur Sanders that we thought in our evaluation, he wasn't really ready to be a quarterback. Yes, because our ideal way, how we scout in this case for quarterbacks, we thought Kenny Pickett would be a legitimate quarterback. Right. Who's on his fifth team playing now for the Raiders? I lost track. The dude's like 24. He's already on like 5 teams already. Give me a break, man. Someone put this to an end. Hey, props to Tomlin. He could coach his you-know-what off. And he finds ways to make this team win 9, 10, 11 games, 12 games a season. How? I do not know. But at some point, man, we got to put this national nightmare to an end. It's got to come to an end, Steeler fans. It got to come to an end. I don't know what to make of next week. Lamar may not play. I mean, go into the next game if you want to. Game number 2, let's just get in right now. Ravens go into the Green Bay and just demolish Green Bay. Green Bay is, this is before, they're in some trouble. I said it a week or 2 ago. They were in some trouble with the Micah Parsons injury. They couldn't stop the run. Derrick Henry was going back and turning back the hands of time. The clocks were turning back. He's like 24, just running through those dudes. 41 points they put on him. And this is what Huntley threw up, only 107 yards, guys. So it was like 1984 in this case here. It came to the running game. I don't know what to make. The Steelers have not been great this season with the pass. They haven't been that fantastic with the defense as well on the run. So I don't know what to make of it at this point. I don't know what to make of next week's game. It's a toss-up at this point. Obviously, Lamar plays, give the edge to Baltimore. But even with Lamar not playing and how this anemic offense looks for Pittsburgh, I'm not, the defense has been decent, but I mean, I'm not sure what the take in they're playing Cleveland. So it could be anything. Baltimore, could be getting through. The Harbaugh days in this case of him being fired potentially, which I think he should. He might survive another season, which I think at this point for both these franchises, Pittsburgh and Baltimore, they need a fresh start. I love me Tomlin. Tom was my dude. But I think they need a fresh start with him, and I think Baltimore is the same way. Harbaugh has made so many boneheaded decisions in big games, I've lost track. Just weird play calling, weird strategy when it comes to Lamar. All of a sudden forgetting like this dude can actually run. And all of a sudden he wants to make him into Dan Marino in playoff time. But I think both these franchises, ironic because both of them, Baltimore's always kind of said they've kind of built themselves on how the Steelers were, and they've been fairly successful at doing so with the same type of hard-nosed mindset, tough defensively. We play smash mouth football. Both teams are kind of built the same way. But their coaching, it's ironically, I think they're at the crossroads with their coaches. Both of them are Hall of Fame coaches. But I think they got to go, man. I think both of them have to go. From the Green Bay side of things, they got a big game left, I believe with Detroit left. And I don't know. Both these teams are just limping in right now. One that will get through. Which one it will be, I don't know. Which one it will be. Because right now, what I see right now from both of them, I guess my bet's got to go with Detroit at the moment. They got the starting quarterback right now. It's healthy. So I'll go with Detroit for the time being. To get through Green Bay, what looked promising, I don't think so. That's where we're at in week 17 right now. It's not pretty. Let's move on to game number 3. Woo! Another interesting one. Jacksonville, Indianapolis. It's a very similar situation. I'm going to ask you a question, folks. You tell me in this case here, and I get some rationale about why they did it. Don't get me wrong. Bringing back Phillip Rivers, I get it. He knows the offense. I understand that. But be it Phillip Rivers or Aaron Rodgers. Pick whichever old man you want to pick. At this point, Cousins, at this point, there's no other quarterbacks that you can find anywhere that can play backup quarterback than these dudes. Like, really? Don't get me wrong, I didn't think Rivers looked that bad, actually. But if that's what you're holding on to your season for, the quarterback position in the NFL, man, I don't know who these people are coaching up these quarterbacks, because if we got drag back guys that are coming out that are flipping burgers and stuff like that, and guys that probably should be retired and hanging out in the jungle doing whatever he's doing, in this case, smoking wherever he wants to smoke, it's something that needs to be studied about what is going on with the actual, coaching, scouting, whatever you want to call it, the infrastructure around developing quarterbacks. Because if that's what we're leaning to, that's a sad state of affairs. As far as the game goes, Jacksonville gets it done, and hey, Trevor Lawrence, they've managed him quite well all season, and I'm not saying they're 12-4 now, and and I said before, I'm not saying that he's a game manager, but they've definitely reined him in a little bit, and he's been better for it. They've used his legs a lot more, and Jacksonville's a dangerous team, man. They're a dangerous team, and I think that AFC South, which is usually kind of much maligned, doesn't have a lot of glamour franchises in it. Some obviously newer franchises, with the Texans and Jaguars in it, and then Tennessee. It's not really the most flashiest division. But if you look at what they produced this year, where you have like Houston 11-5, Jacksonville 12-4, Colts have had a respectable season. It's a tough division. And right now, Jaguars and Texas are the 3 and 5 seeds at the moment. We'll see where things land next week, because I think they play each other again. Don't quote me on it in the schedule, but it's like there's gonna be a ton of big games next week, because usually they end off with division games. I think it's Jacksonville, Houston next week. Right now, I think if someone told me that the AFC South is a Super Bowl representative, I would not be surprised. It's like, I think it's getting there, because I don't trust the Chargers. Sorry, I don't. Patriots still a little wet behind the ears in this case with the second-year quarterback. We'll see. We move further up in this case here. Denver, same situation. It's identical. I'm not showing. Both of them have vet guys that they've been successful in playoffs. As their coaches, I just don't trust the quarterbacks at this phase yet in their career. Buffalo sitting there in the 7th spot right now. Allen's Allen, but Buffalo's found a way to kind of choke it up when they're ready as well too. And don't trust their coach in big game situations, and they've got so many holes in their team with their defense. And then the receiving core is still questionable. Yeah, I don't know. It's up for grabs. And right now, the two AFC South teams, Houston and Jacksonville, they look solid, man. They look solid. And and going on the NFC side, just I'll talk about the NFC in my locker room takes in a second. But looking at where things stand right now, Jacksonville right now to me has an overall team. They're still fairly young, and they're hungry. I really do like them right now as a team to watch in the playoffs when that time comes. So they're going to be pretty dangerous. And I like seeing Trevor Lawrence do well. I like seeing the top guys that are supposed to be the thing kind of starting to have that promise. So good on Trevor Lawrence. To quote Nick Wright, the prince that was promised. I think the promise is finally coming due. So we'll see. Locker room takes. I mentioned I'll get into the NFC, and it's pretty much an NFC review and where things are. The mighty Seahawks took care of things again with a 27-10 win. I'll put it this way: Seattle right now is the 1 seed, big game against Frisco coming up. I think they get it done. I think they do get it done. We'll see. Obviously, they lose. They end up tied with San Francisco. San Francisco has a tiebreaker, but I think Seattle does get it done. And, that puts things in a position where they're the number 1 seed. Everyone's got to come and deal with the 12th man in the mighty Northwest. Chicago with a tough loss there, but, they still, Caleb, man, that is the story in my mind in the NFC. Once again, talking about number 1 overall picks delivering. Caleb Williams, for everyone that was doubting him at any time last season, man, he put 330 some odd yards in that game against, in that shootout with San Francisco. he has a way of coming up big in clutch moments, and you always like that combination. I think, and they have a defense that does take away the ball a lot. So they're going to be at home for at least one of these games, and if you get a warm weather team in there, perhaps, like LA, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for them. So we'll see where things land. There's still a lot to be determined, because if San Francisco loses and then the Rams win, then who knows where things stand at that point. When that happens, the Rams will then move up, 1 seed. So there's a lot to be determined still. Packers, as I said before, Detroit hanging on, trying to get that 7th seed at the moment. Who's kind of in the hunt still? Well, I mentioned Pittsburgh right now. Got to play Baltimore right now. Pittsburgh technically the 4 seed at the moment. The Ravens in the 9 seed. Obviously, that will flip if the Ravens win. And the Bucks and Panthers in the same boat. It's one and done. Panthers play Bucks again for the finale. Bucks have the 4. Panthers have the 4 seed at the moment. Bucks are the 11th seed. Winner goes home. Winner go home, pretty much. And we'll see. I think there's going to be some. Those are essentially playoff games. We got number 1 seeding in the play. This might go down from a scheduling standpoint. Kudos to the schedulers. This next week is going to be, and the actual setup, it's going to be one hell of a finale in the NFL, man. So well done by the schedule makers. You got done. You got done well, fellas. So I'll leave it there. As always, man, you know where to find me. You can find me right here on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate the support. We're building. You also can find me on that crazy thing called X, Blue Sky, as well as Facebook as well, guys. So check me out there as well too. As always, guys, be safe and keep it locked, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.